Good morning, everybody. So last class we discussed about optical comparator. Uh, Anyone clean unmute yourself and tell me, are you able to see the screen and audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Uh, Last class we discussed about optical comparator. So this is the mechanical optical comparator. The name itself indicates mechanical. Mechanical means here you have linkages and mirror, lens, and the light system. For that reason, it is called optical. And you have the link. For that reason, it is called mechanical. The only comparator where you can use lighting system as well as the linkages, that's called mechanical comparator. Next, come to the point, sigma comparator. Here, it is completely mechanical comparator. Here you have linkages, knife edge, and all those things. This is also used for measurement of surface roughness. Surface roughness. Many question paper, you have a question on sigma comparator. If you collect previous 4 question papers, you can see the question on sigma comparator for about 10 marks. So all of you please mark it very, very important sigma comparator. Next, come to the point. In your syllabus, they have mentioned electrical comparator. How do you use electric power for the measurement of component or comparison? Say here, what will happen? The AC power is changed to DC power. So all of you know the alternating current means the positive and negative alternatively changing. But in case of DC current, what will happen? Positive and negative are constant. So you have only positive or you have only negative. So from that, you can measure or you can compare the component with the upper limit and lower limit. So in electrical comparator, here you can set the voltage according to your requirement. See, all of you observe here. This is the control unit and this is the display screen. Here you are going to measure millivolts. Remember, millivolts or milliamps. Only you can observe the upper limit and lower limit by adjusting the dial indicator that indicates milliamps or millivolts in the display screen. And this is connected to the plunger. And again, the plunger has a sensor which assesses the diameter of the component. For example, you have set the diameter 30.05 and 29.95 plus or minus 0.05 limit, plus or minus 0.05 limit. So from that, if the shaft, all of you observe here, component head, you are seeing here, the component head, if it is produced in the lathe with the dimension 29.95 or 30.05, then accept the component. Only 2 criteria. One is accept, other one is reject. So here, just turn the component clockwise direction and anti-clockwise direction. So if it is within the limit, before checking or comparing, set the needle. .05 minus 0.05 plus 0.05. So if the dial outside the limit, then reject the component. This is the principle of operation of electrical comparator. That is, set the dial to measure, that is in millivolts plus or minus 0.05 in the voltmeter or galvanometer in the instrument. Then place the shaft on the V block and make the plunger to touch the circumference of the shaft. Then slowly turn the shaft clockwise direction and anti-clockwise direction. See the meter that you have already set for plus or minus 0.05, left side and right side. If the dial indicates more than 0.05, then reject the component. If it is within the 0.05 plus or minus, then accept the component. So this is the principle of operation of electrical comparator. This is the principle of operation of electrical comparator. Next, come to the point. Pneumatic comparator. Pneumatic comparator. The name itself indicates pneumatic. What is the meaning of pneumatic? Pneumatic means you are using compressed air. Compressed air. Compressed air. So this is also called as back pressure gauge. Back pressure gauge. Pneumatic comparator or back pressure gauge. All of you, please write down the question. All of you, please write down the question. What is pneumatic comparator? What is pneumatic comparator? Put a question mark. What is pneumatic comparators? Put a question mark. Explain briefly. Explain briefly. Back pressure. Back, BACK. Back pressure gauge. Explain briefly. Back pressure gauge. Full stop. Next line, write down one more question. So these questions are already appeared in the examination. Explain briefly. Explain briefly with the neat sketch. Explain briefly with the neat sketch. Solex, SOLEX, Solex comparator. Solex comparator. Put a question. Put a question mark and continue the question. List the applications. List the applications and limitations. List the applications and limitations. Mark it very, very important. Almost all the question paper, you have a question on Solex comparator or back pressure comparator. So this is called back pressure comparator. Say, what are the parts you have in Solex comparator? Just go through the parts one by one. First, all of you seen the air compressor in our mechanical lab. we have 2-stage and 4-stage air compressors. That's depending upon pressure requirement. We have 2-stage or 4-stage air compressor. You can have the pressure of air from 0 to 100 kg per millimeter square. Just you imagine 0 to 100 kg per millimeter square. So sometimes in some of the applications, you may require the air pressure of more than 500 kg per millimeter square or 1000 kg per millimeter square. So what is that unit, kg per millimeter square? Say in the 1 millimeter square area, you have the pressure 0 to 100. Imagine. And also you have seen the air compressors in painting shop, puncture shop. So there also they use air compressor. So in our mechanical lab, they are using air compressor. You have to conduct the performance characteristics of air compressor in the mechanical lab in 5th semester. So it's simple. The performance characteristic is efficiency. That is efficiency equal to input divided by output. Simple efficiency equal to output divided by input. So that will give you the efficiency of the any system, maybe engine, maybe air compressor, or any system. Output divided by input, that will give you the efficiency. First, you have a compressor. Here they have not mentioned 2-stage or 4-stage. So any type of compressor, and it is directly connected to the filter, because in the air compressor, in the environment, we have lot of dust and dirt that you have to filter by using filter provided here. Next, come to the point, there will be a water tank, and which is connected to the manometer. All of you seen the manometer. In the hydraulics lab, I will show you the manometer which is connected to the pipeline. And there will be a orifice. So the requirement of orifice is to the pressure coming from the filter, which is used for the measurement of the pressure. Orifice is used for the measurement of air pressure, that may be 0 to 10 or 0 to 50 or 0 to 100. Say, if you come to my chamber, the backside of my chamber, we have hydraulics lab. I will show you the orifice, manometer, and how to use the manometer for pressure measurement. This is very, very important for mechanical engineers. How to connect the manometer in the pipeline to measure the water pressure or air pressure. Air pressure. Say, this is the height h, that is the depth of the tube which is inserted in the water tank, that is height h. And the manometer, usually in the manometer we use mercury or some type of color liquid. So in order to measure the pressure of the air, the height of the mercury rises, lowers, depending upon the pressure, the measurement, the height of the mercury rises and lowers. Next, come to the point, through the flexible pipe which is connected to the gauging head or measuring head. Gauging head or measuring head. And this is the job. Job means liner. All of you remember, next to our college, we have Perfect Alloy Components Private Limited. they manufactured liners for the heavy diesel engines. Mahindra and Ashok Leyland and some of the companies, they purchase the liners from the industry which is situated next to our college. Perfect Allied Components Private Limited and also Fairlight Liners Private Limited. They are the original equipment manufacturer. Fairlight Liners Private Limited in NT Road. They are the original equipment manufacturers. You might have seen in some of the components they mention the letters OEM, that is original equipment manufacturer, that is Fairlight Liners Private Limited. They manufacture the liners and supply it to the Mahindra, Ashok Leyland and Tata Trucks. Say, where do you require liners? First point. So after running of the engine about 1 lakh kilometers or 1.5 kilometers, what will happen? The bore diameter of the engine enlarges. All of you know. Sometimes you call it as ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಇಂಜಿನ್ ಬೋರಿಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಇಂಜಿನ್ ಬೋರಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. So that is nothing but the bore diameter of the engine enlarged. Then what you have to do, the circular shape of liner. See, the liner is in horizontal direction. You can see the liner in vertical direction also. So after enlarged engine bore, then you can insert the liner in the bore and again you have life of 1 lakh kilometer. Say after inserting new liner in the engine bore, again you have the life of the engine can be increased to 1 lakh kilometer. That is possible. For that reason, the liners are used for enlarged bore of the engine to increase the life of the engine. After inserting the liner in the engine, you can have 1 lakh kilometer life more. So for that reason, this type of job, all of you observe here, this is the circular liner, which is compared with the original dimension. According to the customer, they produce the thickness of 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter and the diameter of the liner is 100 to 120 millimeter. Depending upon the type of engine, they manufacture a liner according to the requirement. Say for this, the outside diameter is important or inside diameter is important for liner. Say in this case, particularly liner, inside diameter is very, very important. You have to check the diameter of the liner, ovality of the liner, straightness of the hole, straightness of the diameter of the hole, and other elements of the hole are very, very important. See, all of you observe here. This is the hatched portion. This is the sectional view of the liner. The thickness of the liner is 2 to 3 millimeter. Once which is produced in centrifugal casting, thickness of the liner is around about 10 to 11 millimeter. After machining, after turning in the lathe, after finishing the bore or diameter of the liner, which is brought to the thickness 2 to 3 millimeter, and the internal diameter of the liner, which is the finished smooth, they make honing and afterwards they carry out the polishing. In that, the piston moves up and down. Piston moves up and down. So diameter of the liner, you have to compare with the dimension provided by the customer, that you have to set in the manometer. In the manometer, you have the mercury. That rises and lowers in the tube. The tube minus values of diameter back pressure. Say once the air is coming from the orifice, passes through the gauging head, released in the measuring head in the center or in the circumference. Again, the same air, same high pressure air sucked by the gauging head sent to the manometer where you can measure the back pressure. You can measure the back pressure. For that reason, it is not it is called as back pressure gauge. Once again, why the Solex comparator is called back pressure gauge? Because whichever the amount of air compressed air passes through the measuring head, which released in the measuring head, hits the internal diameter of the liner and coming back and passes through the pipe, through the gauging head or measuring head and come to the manometer where you can measure the plus or minus reading you have already set for the diameter of the liner or ovality of the liner or straightness of the liner. So these elements can be compared with the dimension you have already set in the manometer. The pneumatic comparator is also called as back pressure gauge. Back pressure means whichever the air sent to the measuring head or gauging head, which releases the high compressed air inside the diameter, which hit the internal diameter and coming back to the measuring head, passes through the flexible pipe and coming to the manometer, where you can measure the diameter of the liner or ovality of the liner or straightness of the liner, or that is nothing but hole. That is the core diameter of the liner. That is the back pressure coming from the air passes inside the measuring head, which is passed through the air, passed through the flexible tube and coming to the manometer, where the manometer contains the mercury which rises and lowers. You can set the plus or minus dimension of the liner in the manometer and see that the liner or bore of the component is correct, then accept, otherwise directly reject. This is the principal operation of pneumatic comparator or the back pressure gauge or Solex gauge. Till today, this type of back pressure gauge are manufactured by Solex Industries. Solex Industries. Throughout the world, nobody manufacturing back pressure gauge, and only company manufactures, that is Solex. For that reason, it is called Solex gauge. For that reason, it is called Solex gauge or Solex comparator. This is the principle of operation of Solex gauge. This is the last portion in your syllabus. Next, all of you write down module 3. Module 3, measurement of screw threads. Measurement of screw threads. For mechanical engineers, How many types of threads we have? First question. How many types of screw threads are available or manufactured or produced on the component? How many types of screw threads are available? That is, two types of screw threads are available. That is external thread and internal thread. External thread and internal thread. For that, good example is bolt and nut. Bolt and nut. Tell me, where do you have external thread and where do you have internal thread? Say in the bolt, we have external thread. In nut, we have internal thread. And next question, how many types of threads are available? All of you seen the form of the thread, the shape of the thread. How many types of threads are available? So, few threads are very, very important. That is V thread, Acme thread, British thread, square thread. Like that, you have lot of threads are available. In actual practice, we use V thread and square thread. So in all the bolt and nuts, we have V thread. We have V thread and screw jock. All of you seen the screw jock, which is used for lifting of the vehicle and the puncture happened to the tire. So there you use the screw jock. So all of you seen in the screw jock, we have square thread. Square thread. The application of thread is very, very vast. Everywhere we have the screw threads. So the functional aspect of V thread or square thread or any type of thread are very, very important. Where do you require? That is nothing but if you want to fix the some component in the assembly, you require bolt and nut. In the same way, if you want to lift the vehicle using the screw jock, then you have to turn and lift the vehicle by turning the nut provided. So in that you have square thread. And very, very important, in the lead screw of the lathe, lead screw of the lathe. Also, you can see the square thread. See, the load bearing capacity of the thread is very, very important. Load bearing capacity. Remember the word load or force bearing capacity of the thread is very, very important. For small bolt and nuts, we use V thread. We use V thread. If the load is very, very high, then we use the square threads. Square threads. Again, one more classification of thread is metric thread or British thread. Metric thread or British thread. In British thread, we mention number of threads per inch. Number of threads per inch in British system. In metric system, M18, M20, like this. M means metric and 18 or 20 means that is the diameter of the major diameter of the screw thread. Major diameter of the screw thread. Remember, threads are classified into British system where we use inches. number of threads per inches. In case of metric system, we mention the letter M, uppercase letter M. Along with that M, we mention the major diameter of the thread, that is M18, M20, or M30. M30 means, M means metric, 30 means the major diameter of the screw thread is 30 millimeter. In this chapter, you have to study the elements of the screw thread by using screw thread micrometer or profile projector, or by measuring the screw thread gauge, by measuring the screw thread using the gauge. In metrology laboratory, we have the profile projector. There you have to measure the elements of the screw thread. See, that's called terminology of screw thread, or the elements of the screw thread. All of you observe here. So this is external screw thread, external screw thread, and this is the terminology of the bolt. Terminology of the bolt. How do you specify the external thread on the bolt? All of you remember the inclined line with the crest. Crest means looks like a triangle. Looks like a triangle. Say, if you touch the bolt with your two fingers, how do you feel? So there will be a crest, that is known as sharp edge or crest. Sharp edge or crest. If you touch the external diameter of the screw thread, you feel you are touching the sharp edge made by the two surfaces, looks like a triangle, that is called crest. That is called crest. And all of you observe here, this is the screw thread terminology. Remember, you are all mechanical engineers. Today onwards, if you want to specify any type of thread in the diagram or anywhere, you have to use the terminology like this. For external thread, this is international terminology for specifying external thread. So always you have to draw the diagram like this. And one more thing, very, very important. How many types of threads are available? How many types of threads are available? Say you have a bolt and nut. If you turn the nut in clockwise direction, then the nut advances, then it is called right hand thread. Right hand thread. Suppose if you turn the nut in clockwise direction, then the nut is coming back, then it is called left hand thread. Left hand thread. So this type of threads are used in mixie jar. All of you seen, there they use left hand thread, because if you turn the nut in clockwise direction, nut is coming out of the bolt. If you turn the nut in clockwise direction, nut is coming out of the bolt. That is left hand thread. If you turn the nut in clockwise direction, then which tightens the bolt, then advances the nut, then it is called right hand thread. Then it is called right-hand thread. So this is international terminology of external screw thread. External screw thread. Next, come to the point. In screw thread terminology, what is the meaning of pitch? What is the meaning of pitch? Remember, in your lifetime, the two peak points of the screw thread. Remember, two peak points of the screw thread is called pitch. Remember, this is very, very important for mechanical engineers. Remember, in your lifetime, two peak points of the screw thread is called pitch. And the sharp edge made by the two surfaces is called crest. And this is the axis. If you touch the screw thread with your finger, whichever the diameter you touch with the screw thread is called major diameter. Remember, in your lifetime, the two sharp edges or peak points of the thread is called pitch. And if you touch the surface of the screw thread with your bare finger, you feel you are touching the sharp edge, that is called major diameter. And next, the crest making the diameter with the triangle, that is called minor diameter. The elements of the screw thread, two elements, that is major diameter and minor diameter, is very, very important. That is the two peak points on the circumference of the screw thread is called major diameter, and the crest making the triangle depth, that is minor diameter, and the axis passes through the center of the bolt, and the upper portion is called addendum and the bottom portion is called dedendum. Remember, in your lifetime, in the depth of the screw thread, in the center you have the axis, upper portion is addendum, bottom portion is dedendum, and the distance between the triangle crest and the root is called root truncator. This is called root truncator. The angle, the face of the screw thread, the inclined surface of the screw thread is called flank. And the angle between the two flank faces of the screw thread is called flank angle. The angle between the two flank surfaces is called flank angle. And this is called flank angle. Remember, the angle of the thread ranges from 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. Remember, the angle of the thread ranges from 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree, and 90 degree. Say, these are the elements. First, pitch. The two peak points of the screw thread is called pitch. And the diameter, the maximum diameter of the screw thread is called major diameter. And the triangle or crest making the triangle, that is called minor diameter. And the pitch line passes through the axis of the center of the screw thread is called pitch diameter. Then the crest, flank surface, and flank angle, and addendum, dedendum. The upper portion of the thread above the axis of the thread is addendum, bottom portion is dedendum. These are the elements you have to measure in the screw thread using screw thread pitch gauge or profile projector. Profile projector. All of you write down the question. All of you write down the question. Explain briefly with the neat sketch external screw thread terminology. Mark it very, very important. The first question in module 3 is explain briefly with neat sketch external screw thread terminology. For this question, you have to write minimum 5 elements. Starting from pitch, major diameter, minor diameter, addendum, dedendum, flank angle, crest, and the other elements. If you write this much, you will get full marks. I stop at this stage and I will continue in the next class. All of you, please write your name and USN in the chat box. I stop at this stage and I'll continue in the next class.